minutes late. We had some technical difficulty, but we got it figured out. Welcome to the Headliners. My name is Edward Mbeche. I'm the founder and CEO of Headline Technology. Today, I have my friend Alvin Narsey. How are you, Alvin?
I'm great, Edward. Yeah, that was a little bit of a fun technical situation, but
Yeah,
this is the magic of podcasting live, and it's exciting. I love it. So thank you for having me on, and what a
yeah,
great start. It's only going to get better.
perfect. Welcome to the Headliners again. Today, we're going to talk few topics about how helping retails, like people would either what do you call it, like a storefront, maybe in a way,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
kind of just go from there how they can leverage either increasing profit, scaling their business, and
Absolutely.
things like that, right? That's awesome. Maybe before we jump in, let's go back a little bit
Uh-huh.
to just introduce people to get to know who's Alvin. Let's go way back, like where you grew up, and maybe you are bringing some good memory when you were a kid and stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's so awesome because I haven't had this question yet where I grew up. So I was actually born in Fiji and I spent the first 10 years of my life in the beautiful islands of Fiji. So I still consider that home, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like paradise on earth. It's so beautiful.
Mhm.
So when I was 10 years old, my family, my parents, mum and dad decided to move to Melbourne, Australia. And so, I've spent the 30 years of my life in Melbourne, Australia. So, I went to high school there, went to university. I studied as a pharmacist, and then I got into my business career, buying and selling pharmacies in Australia, Melbourne, Australia. And then last year, we moved to Germany, my wife and I. So I'm in Germany now. So
Oh,
uh,
that's awesome.
it's continuing the adventure.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely loving it. I'm having a ball.
Okay. So so school in Melbourne, and so you left Fiji, you're young. Do you still have family in Fiji? Do you still go
Yes,
back to Fiji? Yeah.
absolutely. When my grandparents were alive from my dad's side, we used to go back every year. But
Mhm.
right now, I've got cousins there, uncles, aunts, friends. So yeah, we still have plenty of friends and family in Fiji. And I haven't been obviously since the pandemic. So just pre-pandemic, we went, and I haven't been since. And I can't wait to go. Um, Although it is a bit of a flight from Europe at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So with Fiji, give me like, let's say if I was to travel to Fiji,
Uh-huh.
what can you tell me, like, oh, someone, like, instead of just being like a tourist, maybe what do you think, maybe something people should know if they travel to Fiji, something they can dig
I
in.
love it. I love these questions. So good, Edward. Okay, this is so awesome because I haven't had these questions before. So I
Mhm.
think the first thing, the major mistake that a lot of tourists make when they get to Fiji, and it's definitely because of all the way Fiji is marketed. They stay on the main two islands, right? So which is good, it's nice, but Fiji has over 350 islands,
Yeah.
and it really is so beautiful to go out into the outer islands. So that's the first tip I would recommend,
Mhm.
is to organize yourself so you go to one of the resorts or these islands that are on the periphery.
Mhm.
The second thing is, I think a lot of tourists don't go into the capital, which is Suva. It's traditionally the business capital, and that's where most of the locals are. You kind of land into the international airport and you go straight to your resort.
Mhm.
But Suva, the capital, is absolutely beautiful. There is such a mix of cultures in Fiji. There's Indian, indigenous Fijian, Chinese, everybody. The food's great, and it's like it's not a big metropolis, but I think it's often overlooked by the tourists because the travel agent wouldn't really
Yeah.
recommend you go down to the capital, right? But I think the capital is beautiful.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's good. So let's switch gears a little bit and start talking, I guess, your professional life. So
yeah,
coming from I feel like your whole life you have been almost kind of like maybe half, we say, like your whole professional life you've been like a business owner, right?
correct.
From being like an entertainment consulting and to like pharmacist and consulting pharmacist to owner of a non-profit organization. let's go a little bit. Like, what did you do when you did business? I mean, entertainment consulting. Maybe we can start from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another great question.
Yeah.
So I was actually, well, it's the role is called an entertainment consultant, and that was when I was working in university. We had a TV provider called Foxtel, which is a
Yeah.
paper service provider back in the good old days via cable.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different. It was a subscription model, totally different to Netflix, of course, but it was one of your first pay television options. And I was actually working as what they called an entertainment consultant on the phones.
Yeah.
So that was my university job. So we would be like inbound tech support and when people had questions. And I really loved it because I got to talk to people, which I really enjoy. And the hours sort of suited my university life because the hours I did the evening shifts from 6 p.m. till 1 or 2 in the morning. And it was really perfect because I would go to university during the day, hang out, and then I would come to work and I would work and also do a little bit of my studying there in between of phone calls. And it was such a fun environment. It was really, really good fun. And because of the hours, I was able to work pretty much full-time 38, 40 hours while studying university as well. And of course, there were weekends and all that kind of thing. But it was so much fun. The people were really cool. I met some amazing people. And at that time, we got free TV, with all 70, 80 channels. And that was, of course, a bonus and a half.
Yeah. Probably the heavy TV, but it still worked. It's not like the flat screen TV kind of, easy to live. Yeah. That's awesome. So from there, but from there, how did you end up living that and transitioning into becoming a pharmacist?
Sure. Yeah. So I went to university. So actually, we probably take a step back before. So I was in high school, right? And I had no idea what I wanted to do in university. So, I got some grades, some unexpectedly high grades for me. And so I started putting down some crazy things like I wanted to be a dentist, a lawyer. I had some other crazy things in there. And you get 6 choices where you got 6 choices back then. Yeah. And the number 6 choice for me was pharmacy. And I had no real interest in it. I only put it down because my aunt was a pharmacist. And, I kind of had the grades for it. And then I got in. So when I got into pharmacy school, man, I regretted it because it was so tough. Like I mentioned, you were at university pretty much 9 to 4, 9 to 5 every day, learning all this crazy stuff. And, if it wasn't for my job at nighttime, I would have gotten really crazy. So it's fair to say that I didn't really enjoy my university that much in terms of the content of pharmacy, right? But in pharmacy school, in your final year, you have to do an intern year. So I did my intern in a pharmacy, in a retail pharmacy. And, that's when it really all came together for me because once I started dealing with clients and patients and talking to people on the retail floor, there's that talking thing again. This is like, I was born to do this. And then it became really, really fun for me. And I supremely enjoyed it after that. But I must say the 5 years at university wasn't much.
It was tough. That's because I was like, at first I was like, okay, you hated it, but also you end up, as we go, you end up becoming a pharmacist consultant from there.
Yes.
So from there, you leave where you worked, right? So then you became a pharmacist. So what is a pharmacist consulting exactly?
So when I actually wasn't a pharmacist consultant, I was a pharmacy business owner.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was 26 or 27 years old, I bought into a pharmacy partnership with a few other into a partnership. And then from there, that's when it really started for me in terms of buying and growing businesses. And, with my partnership with my 2 other people that I was hanging out with, we bought and sold, 5 or 6 different pharmacies. And midway through, we decided to go our separate ways. And, I was running my pharmacy on my own. One of the pharmacies on my own. So I was running businesses for about 15 or 16 years, just buying and selling large pharmacy-based businesses.
Yeah. So I know the health system is a little bit different in Europe and in the US. So like where some other places we hear, is Europe, do they do like free healthcare
To be honest, I'm not doing any pharmacy related things here in Germany, right? So from my understanding, it's just my observation. It's in Germany anyway, it is certain medications are subsidized by the government here. So, it's pretty good like that. It looks a little bit similar to Australia because in Australia, there are certain medications that are subsidized by the government. So that's how it works there. Yeah.
Okay. And I know, so with this also, I'm trying to kind of find a way here to look back to how you help retail business, because
Yes.
you had all this experience like running your own business. So you know the in and out, how to either scale, how to add profit and all. So I guess so we go into the retail where you're a retail coach, right? Retail business.
Yes.
How I guess let's talk about, like you mentioned about business, how retail business can increase their cash flow. Can you explain a little bit? Maybe let's jump into that kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and just before we do that, Edward, I think you were trying to figure out how I got to doing what I'm doing now. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find. Like, okay, so from the having your own pharmacies, and you end up selling it, and then so maybe let's connect that first before we go to this question.
Sure.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Okay, so no problem. So mid-pandemic last year, we decided to move to Germany. I sold my business, and I've always been working with business coaches myself. And my business coach at the time, Glenn, he was like, Alvin, so what are you going to do now? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm going to go to Germany. I'm going to see what happens. And he suggested, he told me, like, you're a really good client. You take all my feedback on board. You should be a coach. And of course, I said, no way. I can't be like you, right? Because Glenn was an excellent coach. And so we left it as that. And then before a couple of months later, we met up again. We had some dinner, and he said, have you given it some thought about, what I've told you about becoming a coach? What are you going to do in Germany? I was like, I have no idea. So then I told him, I have no idea what to coach people about. And he told me, he gave me some really good advice, like a really good coach would do. And he told me, if you were to travel back in time and talk to your little 26-year-old Alvin, who was building businesses, what would you tell him to, help the journey, to accelerate the journey, or to, avoid any pitfalls? And so that's exactly what I did. So I just created a program where when I, if I traveled back in time and I met myself, these are the things I would tell myself to do when I was starting off in building businesses and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm doing now. Now, why retail, right? Why not just particularly pharmacy? Is a question I get all the time.
Maybe Alvin, before you jump there, I was about to add, which, like, from just your history, actually, from my understanding, I think you become a better coach through all the stuff that you have done, because you have done it. Because there's some other fake coach here, they have never even owned a retail or business, but they are trying to teach people how to run a business. So with your experience, this is perfect where you end up like in retail. So let's go into it.
Exactly. And that's what I didn't realize at the time. That's what Glenn brought to my attention as well, because like you said, I've actually done it. So I can relate really well, and I can communicate in that same language that, that somebody who's done it. And so, pharmacy is a form of retail, and I really enjoy all facets of retail. So that's why now I broadly help retail business owners improve their cash flow and profitability. And of course, pharmacy businesses come under that. I don't have any pharmacy clients at the moment, but I've got other retail businesses. But so that encompasses all under the banner of retail. Yeah.
That's perfect. So give me like not necessarily a blueprint. Like, when, let's say I own a store and a retail store, and you come in and you're pitching me to help me with the service that you offer. Can you walk me through how that looked like?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a question I get all the time. So, and of course I have a framework for it. So when it comes to my specialty, which is improving cash flow and profit, there were 3 areas that I work on with my clients. And the first area is to increase visibility of the numbers in our business. So that means we want to get an understanding of which way the cash is flowing in our business. We want to start to get a deeper understanding of the numbers in our business. And we want to sort of have a way that we can visually see these numbers. So that falls under the visibility piece. The next part that I work on is the cash component. So we start to flush the bank account with cash, right? So we involve particular strategies that we do with retailers to quickly get their cash flow up and have more cash in the bank account. Because when people usually come to me, most retailers, they're sort of struggling for cash. They're running out of cash. So employing that strategy, pretty much in the beginning helps immensely. And the third component, third part of the triangle, if you will, is the profit component. So, then we look at our margins in our business, how we manage the money that's flowing through our business. And also my specialty is how do we create what I call develop a rockstar team, but, how do we put a team together that's going to drive profitability in our retail business and continue to move it forward. So visibility, cash, and profit is my methodology.
Perfect. Let's go back a little bit. So maybe is there like a form where you say, okay, I only deal with retail service that generate this much, or does it matter? It can be just a mom and pop kind of retail store.
Great question. So, like you said, because I've done it before, I feel I have an area of expertise. So unfortunately, not unfortunately, but I don't deal with startups because, I'm not the best person for that. That hasn't been my experience. My real forte is, mid to large size businesses where I work with, where we've got the owner and a team of at least 2 or 3 people, and usually a minimum size turnover that I've got. So when a client comes to me with that kind of background and that's what their business is, that's when I can really work magic with them together.
So not necessarily in my head, I keep going back into like where this small mime and pot we call, I don't know if mime, so it's like a small, so you gotta be somehow generate revenue, but also so because a lot of the time you find them like this small place that is the owner. And maybe they have their 2-3 employees, the small one, and then your retail store kind of expand to that.
Correct.
So I was trying to figure increasing cash flow to the bank, visibility. I guess I'm still trying to find a way to kind of be like, okay, can you help? I have a friend who has a small store, and I keep trying to find a way to be like, hey, can you find another store? Maybe let's make your store a little bit bigger so you can increase maybe more traffic and more stuff, or open another location so you can kind of. So what I'm trying to figure, do you also come in with a strategic of like kind of be like, hey, we're going to help you with the cash flow, and also we're going to either expand not just visibility, because visibility also comes into what you got to do marketing, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So with the marketing, how there's 2 things here. There's cash that's coming in, but you might not be even also making enough cash for you to be like, oh, I can do marketing now.
Yes.
So is there like maybe there's a step you'd be like, okay, there's we can do this small portion, we can do this. Is there like multiple program that you are able to give to this?
Absolutely. So we start everyone off. So I'm known for cash flow and profitability, and I believe this is the foundations for any business and also retail businesses. Because once we get the cash flow and profitability set up, then we're going to be able to manage cash, have excess cash that we can start implementing on marketing. So when I work with clients, we first start on what I call the essentials, the fundamentals of their business, which is that part. And once we've gone through that cycle, we've got everything set up, we have our systems in place, we know exactly where cash is flowing, we're working towards profitability. Then the next stage of the journey with me and my company is to start looking at implementing marketing initiatives. So when we start to implement these marketing initiatives, we'll have the foundation set so we can actually test and measure properly what's going to be happening. once we start implementing these marketing strategies. Because a lot of businesses, they start to implement marketing strategies, but really they've got only one way of knowing whether it's working, and that's if they've got top line sales. But that's not always the best way to measure it. And the thing about most business owners in this space is, they might try a marketing strategy for 2 weeks and then they'll give up on it. And because they've got no real way of knowing if it's working or not. So I help set up the foundations for that.
Okay, perfect. You mentioned about increasing cash flow in the bank. Cash flow in the bank living there, or because I'm thinking there's some other people say, hey, you get cash, keep investing to either expanding your adding more product or maybe expanding space or whatever. So are you talking about why are we doing like increasing cash flow or increasing money in the bank instead of investing it? Or is it maybe I missed somewhere?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So what you're talking about is the step after. I usually come in at the point where the retailer is really struggling because they don't have any cash in their business. They're probably running out of cash because they're not really sure how to manage the flow of cash through their business. So step one, when I mean flushing the bank account with cash, is we set up the processes and systems in their business so that we can start to generate extra cash to help them out quickly so they can continue to pay their bills, pay their staff, maybe pay themselves. And then that next stage, once we're understanding the flow of cash, we're starting to generate extra cash. That's when we can talk about whether we want to reinvest it into stock, reinvest it into marketing, or maybe we can reinvest it in us and pay ourselves a little bit more.
Okay. Let's talk about something also. You talk about KPIs.
Yeah.
Explain to people or to me also. Just can you explain for people that do not know what KPIs? I heard KPI. What is KPIs?
Yeah.
And how should retail use KPIs?
Absolutely.
So explain what is a KPI? Yeah,
Yeah, sure thing. So KPIs are a fancy term or an acronym for key performance indicators.
Performance indicator. Yep.
Absolutely. So just a fancy term. But so all KPIs are the way I like my business owners to think about it. So KPIs are levers in our business that if we start to manipulate or turn, that will drive our business forward in terms of cash flow, profitability, and revenue. Because essentially, we need a way that we can track and measure what we are doing in our business. And so we can figure out what's working, what's not working. So once we've sort of figured out what is working by using KPIs, it's my main aim to get the business owner to step back from the day-to-day running of their business so that when they are afar, when they're doing stuff that they love or they're at the beach or somewhere else or traveling, they can look at their business and they can have a look at these key performance indicators which their team are driving forward. And this is a really good way for the business owner to be looking at this and going, yes, okay, so this is how this is tracking compared to last week. So team, are we doing this to drive this forward? So that's what I mean by KPIs.
Yeah.
And one of the common mistakes, most retailers have KPIs. Some of them don't. But if they do, they end up having too many KPIs. And I think that's when you can get into a little bit of analysis paralysis, because all of a sudden you have all these numbers that you're looking at, and it makes it really hard to make decisions on which way to go. Yeah. So I believe, and this is the same thing I had, like we need to have no more than 10. 6 to 10 is the sweet spot, I believe, for most businesses. Mm-hmm. And that'll just allow us to, one, monitor our KPIs easily, because if you have 30, 40 KPIs, it's somebody's job to pull all that data, and it's going to be very, very not fun at all. But 6 to 10, and I also believe it needs to be simply represented, and I like to use an A4 piece of paper, and very, very simple, so we can just write down our data in front of us and look at it and have it nice and clear. And when we look at it, we should be able to know whether this is good, bad, and what we need to do. So I don't want any confusion from too much information. So I think that's a key thing about KPIs for me.
Yeah. And I know you just mentioned about cash flow and profit. and where you want like business, like retail business focusing on cash flow and profit than revenue. What do you mean by that? Like when, yeah, like, because I'm thinking is like, yeah, I want to focus on revenue. Like I want to,
yeah, great question.
Yeah.
So this is a common thing that happens in retail, and in fact, it happens in a lot of businesses as well. So there's a distinct difference between revenue and profitability. So revenue is what your total business turns over. So how much money you get in, right, on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. What I'm concerned about is profitability. So which is after you've got your revenue, you've taken out your expenses, what actually are you left over with? Because what you're actually left over with is what we actually use to, pay for our marketing, to pay ourselves, to pay our team. So that's why I'm really focused on profitability. For example, this is quite common in retail. Somewhat, retailers often discount their products, right? So they discount, so they have a really high turnover because they're selling so much stuff. Yeah. But they kind of forget that they're selling so much stuff for so little money, for so little margin, I beg your pardon. So they might be selling a whole heap, turning over and, increasing their revenue, but what they actually take home, what's left over at the end is very, very minimal. And that's because of discounting or poor pricing and not understanding their margins. So I always like to look at what the profit is and, what are we actually making? And I think that's a far more meaningful metric in moving forward. You can turn over $50 million and still only make, $3 at the end of the day. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in you can turn over, say, $10 million or $5 million and have 1 million left over at the end of the day. That's when it really gets interesting. And I think that's far more important.
So with this, is that maybe I know with the discount and all that. So when you come in with your strategic also, are you also making sure they are pricing their product the right price?
Absolutely.
So it's not crazy like where, because here I give you example. I've seen this online. I don't know if this website is in German. It's called Groupon, right?
Yeah. So we have that in Australia. Familiar with it,
right? Yeah. So I will look at the product is listed there. It said the product was $900, the original price, but now they're selling for $70. So that discount, first me, I'm like, no, I don't want to buy it because this sounds like a cheap product, but just like the price made so high to think this is quality, but really is not, because there's no way a manufacturer or retail is gonna, the original price is 900 and discount this thing like over 90% of the, so I guess what I'm trying to say is also the price, the correct price is very important, right? So
absolutely. And we have a process for that, right? So when I work with retailers, one of my main things that we work on is increasing margins. But you can't just increase margins across the board, right? You really got to be strategic in your approach. You've really got to understand what products you have in your retail store. And this also applies for e-commerce as well, because I have a lot of e-commerce clients. So we really need to understand what products are we selling. Are they known in the marketplace to be of a specific price, right? So if everybody knows a bar of soap is $1, there's not much room to move. But hopefully, and one of the parts that I work with my clients in doing is we really get to drive down and understand who our ideal client or customer is. And hopefully, we're strategically ensuring that we're selling products that our particular client wants. And if you hone in on a particular demographic or client or ideal customer, you hopefully should be able to stock products for them. And those are the products that we can start to increase the margin on and really drive the value proposition to the client or customer. So they see, yes, it's worth it to be paying a little bit extra, and whilst at the same time, we're making money as well. But it's not a blanket, let's increase the prices of everything in the store. Yeah, we got to go through it strategically.
Yeah, I'm in my head, I'm going all over the place. I'm thinking, so let's say a retail has has a chance maybe dealing directly with the manufacturer instead of
Yes.
distributor, where it's like there's a middle person. They say they had a chance. Let's even if they're dealing with the distributor, yeah, there's a middle person, whatever. So they buy something. Let's say this shirt, they buy for what it costs them to buy it is like $50.
Okay.
And then they're gonna think about like how much it's gonna cost me to pay taxes and how much it costs me to maybe to deliver and all that fee, travel fee or transfer fee, whatever. Is it like a formula to be like, okay, I'll spend $50 for this. I know I'm gonna pay taxes. Is it like a formula to be like, you know what? I'm gonna sell this shirt for $100 because I
Yeah.
spent $50. Is it like a formula that you give to these retails for pricing?
Okay. It's a good question. It's not a formula that I give, but if we look at industry per industry,
Yeah.
there is generally a trend in the marketplace or an average margin on certain products. So certainly, if you were a client of mine in the boutique, and I've got a couple of boutique clients, I would get them to research the market and see what is the average margin on a blue shirt that we buy from a particular supplier. And certainly we can mark it up accordingly. And so we're competitive in the marketplace. So that's definitely something that can happen within industries. It's certainly what happens a lot in pharmacy industry that I'm familiar with. So yeah, so in some industries it is possible to do that. Yeah, but otherwise, like hopefully, eventually, that's how we would start off. And then, once we really start to hone in on our ideal client, and perhaps our ideal client who loves this blue shirt, we're targeting upper middle class, or we're targeting a particular suburb kind, and they like to wear a particular watch. We could potentially, by providing a value proposition that this shirt is made by a particular designer, we could drive the margin up and sell it for 7-8 times. And this happens all the time in high-end retail fashion. I'm sure you're familiar with Versace and so forth, right? It's that same example. So it's about getting clear on who we're selling to.
Okay, so almost like location.
Yeah, almost like it. And it's the real thing with retailers is we're too often trying to be generalists. So that means we're trying to cater for everybody, and this happens in every business, not necessarily retail, right? And we've always been told that we really should focus on our ideal client, because that's going to make everything so much easier. And it does, because then you have this laser focus. You don't get distracted by by trying to sell other products and other marketing initiatives. And if you have your customer avatar and you know who you're chasing and you know who you're serving, it really makes it so much easier. But it's a process.
Yeah, perfect. You talk about a retail business owner removing themselves from day to day, because it's easy. When I think about it, it's easy for someone, like, let's say if they work in 9 to 5, it's easy. You clock in, you clock out. It's not your problem until like tomorrow. But for business retail owners, it feels like a 24/7 kind of
Definitely.
thing. Can you go into that kind of?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when you are the business owner, and this is any business, right? This is essentially your baby, or it feels like that in the beginning. And so quite often you feel like you have to do everything in your business. And in the beginning, you certainly do. And yeah, you're right. Even though you may close your shop at 5 p.m., you still have a bunch of paperwork to do. You've got to deal with staff issues and so on and so forth. So, it's not, in the beginning anyway, it's not a switch off as you would if you were an employee. So what you mentioned is getting out of the day-to-day. This is what I work towards in getting my clients or business owners onto, because once we get out of the day-to-day, we can start working on the business. So how is that different to day-to-day? So quite often, as a business owner, we probably come from a technical background. In my case, I was a pharmacist, so I can be a pharmacist on the floor. Or if you're a baker, you're doing all the baking and so forth. So all the technical things. And Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth, he explained that really, really well. So that's great. However, if you want your business to grow, there's a whole next level of thinking that's involved, like, strategizing. How are you going to figure out what marketing tactics to employ? How do you figure out what you're going to do with your business in the next 12 to 24 months? All of those things take time. And so when I say working on the business, I mean, let's figure out a way how we can get away from doing all the day-to-day things and really work towards focusing our time on that top level stuff, like on the business. So let's start working on our marketing plan, our collaborations in the future. Let's start thinking 12, 24 months ahead. How are we going to expand? How are we going to develop our team? What initiatives are we going to put in place? It's really challenging to think about all these things when you're working in the business. Yeah. And so that's how I work with my clients to do that.
Perfect. And also you mentioned about getting your team to be profit centric.
Yeah.
How do you get your team to be profit centric?
Yes. So I work with retailers to create what I call a rock star team.
Yeah.
And the way we develop a rock star team is really basic, but it's often forgotten. And so this is ensuring that our team understand in our business what we are all about. Because quite often we might hire an employee, they'll come in, they might do a little bit of an introduction to the business, but we will more than likely just throw them onto the floor with minimal training and just show them how to use the register, show them a little bit about what they need to sell. Mm-hmm. What I do and what I get my clients to do is we go a little bit deeper. We make sure that our team understand what we as a business owner are trying to create. Mm-hmm. Who are we trying to serve as a business? And also, along with that, it's about understanding, okay, if a customer comes in, we want to make sure that we provide the full solution. And what does a full solution to their problem look like? Not just a single product, but a full solution, and you want to do everything so your customer walks away happy. And, very rarely when we have a problem as a customer and we go in, we want to be served the full solution. So, we often enjoy it when somebody recommends this, that, and the other. And so this is how we go about getting our team to think in that fashion as well. But all that involves a lot of work from the business owner, right? So we need to ensure that our team know what to sell in terms of margins. We need to ensure that they have basic sales training. We want to make sure that our team is independent. And we do these by constant training, constant interaction, also constant feedback. I think one of the things that is often missed is like the team review process. Believe it or not, our team members want to know how they're going. And just a very simple couple of minute process that we put into place, something that we do with most team members, every 2 weeks or every month, just a simple process like a check-in process. How are you going? And we have a template for this where we really try and focus in on the team member and what we're trying to achieve in the shop. So just little things like that, just bring a little bit of cohesion as a team. And then once you have this cohesion, you really start to drive your profitability forward because your team are sort of humming and they know exactly how to look after your clients and customers.
Okay, that's awesome. I know you were mentioning about how like dealing with your team, kind of training them what to offer and all that. Is it possible also? Because the way I'm thinking, sometimes these places, they might have a higher turnover, right?
Yes.
Employees, right? So are you also kind of coming in like, hey, you're going to have to pay your employee a little bit better? Because as you see, otherwise your whole thing is going to be like this. You hire someone, you train them. As soon as they learn about your product, they just became good. They're like, oh, forget about this job. They leave. So it's like you're always like in the loop of trying to train good people to be able to offer that good quality customer service.
Absolutely. And the way we get around that is you need to have a proper hiring procedure. So, what that means is you need to be taking a step back from that. We need to make sure that we have position descriptions, which are not a lot of retail businesses have, unfortunately. But being really clear on the positions that we have in our retail shop and being really clear what that person needs to do. And then so when we go to the market and hire, we also need to be really clear on what kind of person that we want. And unfortunately, how it happens in retail is we're always on the back foot. And in business, really, like we're either growing too quick and it's like, oh my God, we need help. Somebody's sick. Let's just get the next person in. So yes, that's a temporary Band-Aid fix, but we have proper procedures in place that we can really start to attract and triage and make sure we have a proper process for making sure that we find the right person. But you're right, this happens all the time, and implementing this kind of cycle does take a little bit of time. But we've got to invest in our team. Even if they do hang around for a few months, we've got to make sure that when they're on the floor with us, we're really maximizing everyone's time. So it's part of the game, my friend.
And for the retail business owner, pay your employee better so they can stay.
Yeah, I think one of the keys to that is having a really good incentive system. Incentive. It can mean a few things. Not necessarily a higher rate of pay, although if you're, you can look at that as well. But, like I mentioned, a team likes to be included. And, if we can think of other activities that we can do as a team together, other goals that we can set together as a team, and, whether we go out for dinner or, some of the basic things that we often as owners overlook, which are really important to the team. These are some other ways that we can, incentivize our team members.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know before we go, I wanted to ask you another question. If someone is thinking about opening a retail store, what would you tell them? Like what things to look up, what thing to be prepared or to look up?
Yes, absolutely. So the first question my first process has got nothing to do with retail, which is why I love about it. And that is, if you're going to get into business and you've made this decision, that is so awesome. What I want you to do, or what I want the owner to think about is, what sort of vision do they have for themselves? What are they trying to create? For instance, what's really important to them in their life? Like, why are they opening up this business? Why do they want to create this business? Now, it may be to travel, to give them more time, more freedom, so they can continue to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 3 or 4 times a week, whatever that might be, and have some sort of long-term future plan. That is so important, because when you start your business and when you get into your business, things are going to get really, really tough. And if you don't have this guiding light behind you on where you're really aiming towards, when it all gets hard, you're just going to fold everything in, and then you end up having a very expensive exercise. So I think a personal vision is so important. Second part, I think it's really important to then have whatever business that you're going to be in, and I've said this a few times, is to be really clear on what value we're going to provide to the marketplace and who we are serving. Because the more defined we are, the more clear we are on who our ideal customer is, everything just trickles down nicely from there. It's going to make our decisions a lot easier. So that's really important. And of course, you need to research that as well and make sure there's a need in the marketplace for that. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. I know you. This is a random question. So I don't know. In your country right now, do they play Lotto?
In Germany? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so someone here, they just won almost $1 billion, right?
Okay, I like it.
If you were to win $1 billion, like tomorrow, boom, you win $1 billion, would you continue teaching people, or you be like, you know what, I'm gonna just go play judo, travel the world, and don't bother with anything? Or would you trying to
me personally?
Yeah.
Oh,
$1 billion right there. Yeah.
I think yes, I would definitely.
Probably already have that $1 billion, but just in case.
Not quite. That's a really good question. Yeah. One of my main values, and we talked about, when you create a vision, is to have an understanding of your values. One of my main values is contribution. And, I like the way that I can contribute in this aspect of helping other business owners. Yep. But if I had $1 billion, would I still do it?
Just go buy some place like in Fiji, just with a nice yacht.
Yeah, but then I think I would still need to be continuing to be engaged in some way or form and continue to provide value in some way, shape, or form. So I think I would probably still be doing it.
Yeah. That's the word you're gonna stick with. So another way, I'm actually last question I wanted to ask: can this coaching that you have? I know you're geared toward um, retail. Can this transform into other two direction? Online, like let's say if I have a online retail store, is this also, maybe that's what I didn't. So are you focused, you say you focus on online people with the storefront? Can this coaching transfer into online store, online retail, and also can it transfer to a service industry?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So what I work through with my clients is the fundamentals really of any business, right? In any business, you want to get your cash flow under control. You want to know, you want to have visibility of the numbers. You want to understand your profitability. Certainly, you definitely, all of those form the basis of a really, really good business. So yes, this is what you can do. I just happen to niche it towards retail because I speak that language really well and I love retailing. In terms of e-commerce, yes, I have a lot of e-commerce clients. So the same strategies apply, right? So essentially, we're still selling things, but we're doing it online. And e-commerce retailers, not drop shippers, because drop shipping is a totally different game. But e-commerce retailers where they actually have stock in their warehouse and they have to do all that fun stuff, that absolutely. So we work with a lot of e-commerce businesses as well. What was the third business? Any business
was service. Like let's say, like take example, my company, we offer online, like on the app. So all customer, they can order their service online using the app, the super app. They can order ride share, they can order grocery, they can order restaurant food or retail stuff. Can that also be used to? That's what I was saying. Would you? Or maybe do you have a plan to transition to that also, or can that be used?
So I'll answer your first question. Yes, the same fundamentals apply. Edward, you should be tracking your cash flow, my friend. You should be having KPIs, and you should be monitoring your profitability, brother. Certainly, like all of these principles are not unique to retail. So this is general, really good business, right? In terms of transitioning, I was told very early on, and and this falls in line to what I was saying. The riches are in the niches. I don't know who said that, but somebody said that, and I resonate really well with retail. I love it. I'm much more passionate about retail, so I'm going to stick to that for the foreseeable future. Things could change, but I don't plan on expanding into other industries.
Perfect. Alvin, thank you so much for coming to the Headliners. And this is what I had also. I'm thinking like not next time, the first time when I plan to go to Fiji, I'm going to try to reach out to you, be like, hey man, can we go to Fiji?
Absolutely. It is so beautiful.
That'd be awesome. I want to go like all the local area and all, not just the tourist place.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you so much again, Alvin. Maybe before we go, can you mention how people can find you?
Yeah, great. So you can find me everywhere, really. Alvin Narsey. You can find me on LinkedIn. Send me a message on LinkedIn, on Facebook. If you plug my name, is the easiest way. Plug my name into Google, and all my assets will come up. My YouTube channel, my podcast, everything. The whole World Wide Web is under Alvin Narsey. So you'll just find me there. Send me a message. Let me know you heard me on Edward's show, and we can continue the conversation.
And maybe for people who are not watching this live, but they're listening to a voice, can you maybe spell the whole name? They can Google that.
Absolutely, yes. So it's Alvin, like the chipmunks, and my surname is Narsey.
Alvin.
That's it.
Thank you so much again for coming to the Headliners.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
All right.